And good morning, everyone. I hope you all can hear me well. And I would like to just start my training for today. And as you all know, there are several topics that's going to be taken. And I'm doing the third topic, just like how Manuela mentioned. It's on finance for non-financials. So basically, I'm just going to be covering some basic concepts about what is finance, what are the key concepts that you need to know in finance just to understand how do you come up with profits, how do you look at your cash flow statement, and so on. um, so let me just share my screen. Okay, is are all of you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. um, so I would like to first just introduce myself. So, like I said, for Zina Bashir, so I am actually from India, although currently now working in Dubai. I work with BI since for the past 6 years now, and I'm working currently. I joined as an intern, doing some support with group functions, as in the supporting functions of the business. And now I'm finally doing medicine controlling. So, what do I mean by medicine controlling is mainly medicine can be divided, like medicine controlling mainly can be divided into like two parts. One part of it is the clinical trial. So, before a medicine comes obviously into the market, there are several trials that run on maybe the patients, etc., on the selected group. Sorry, I think somebody is waiting to be admitted into the chat. Okay. Um, Yeah. So there are clinical trials that run. So that is one part of it. So what I ideally do is to try and help the clinical trial teams estimate what is going to be the cost, how much is the cost that is coming in on a monthly basis, what is our total budget, are we within it, and so on. So that's what the clinical trials part of the medicine is. And then there is, once this clinical trial has succeeded and once the product, before the products, mainly maybe easier to understand would be the ingredient. So let's say the ingredient of the medicine is successful, then there are, before we actually the product is in the market and it can be marketed, what the medicine team does is to hold scientific events where they're talking about the ingredient, they're explaining to doctors, etc., about what is the benefits, what are the downfalls, etc. So this is the other part of the scientific study that the medicine team does. So I'm also helping them with the same thing, that is the budgeting, how their yearly spends are, how do they have enough budget to do any external or extra activities, and so on. So these are my parts of controlling that I do. I just included a picture actually just to show you like the two different parts that I'm from. As you can see, in India, I'm from the southern part of India, which is mainly Kerala. If you can see, it's full of greeneries and seas and rivers and lake. It's more like that. Whereas in Dubai, it's complete straight opposite. It's mainly a desert, very less green or trees or forests, but it's obviously with buildings and deserts and camels. So it's like complete straight opposite of where I come from. But I grew up here. I studied here, and I also now started working also in Dubai. Just also added just to show you, that's my husband, a very small family, just recently married. Um, okay, so let's go on to the next. I may. I just wanted to also understand the team. So I'm not sure if everyone is able to hear me, because I would like, I think there are several teams here. So if there is anybody from the team, at least one person from each team who can just introduce your team, what kind of participants are there, and just to give me an idea of what you're expecting to get to know from a training called Finance for Non-Finance. So, is there somebody who would like to go first? Maybe I will just ask Solasa.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, I'm Tabitha, supervisor Solasa,
Okay.
and me and my team, we are expecting to learn more about finance so that we can be able to put our records of whatever things that we do in
Okay.
accounting and everything that it is concerning finance. Thank you.
Okay. All right. If I may ask, also, can I know a little bit about what kind of participants do we have? Are they people who are already doing some sorts of businesses, or just in general wanting to know about how finance works?
We are intending to have something that will be will help us have an income, generating income, and also we
Okay.
have a school. We want it to be sustainable, to stand by its own, so that we can be able to pay our teachers the salary and many things that are expected in school.
Okay. Okay. Understood. All right. Okay. Thank you. I still see it as Solasa too, so I'm not sure the name. Mm, okay, any other? Yeah,
We're just doing the same thing. We're logging with two different computers.
sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you please repeat?
We are the same team, but we're just logging with two different computers.
Ah, okay. All right. Okay, fair enough. Understood. Okay. Then Irene. Hi, Irene. Can you hear us? Okay. Is there anybody else?
Hi, this
Hello, everyone.
is Sam. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, this is Sam Agutu from Tendo.
Okay.
Now, I myself, I'm I'm a financial, or should I say, I'm an accountant. So I do
Okay,
have
that's
a
very
knowledge of
nice.
accounting. Yes,
Okay.
but then I have a diverse team.
Okay.
They are, people who are. None of the other people in the Tendo team are actually accountants, and would
Okay.
benefit from some of this knowledge. We also
Okay.
have in our team from group from Mukuru,
Okay.
we have some students and we have some people who are doing small business. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I think the large team would be able to benefit from, the basic, accounting principles and record keeping. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much, Samuel. Okay. Wenda, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
So, hi everyone.
Hello.
I'm Venta. from Kenya, from a group called ViCCO, Viwandani Comprehensive Community Organization. I'm a
Okay.
student. I'm a student pursuing film technology, and
Okay.
I'm currently doing a small business of selling yogurt, and
Okay.
I'm here to learn and how I will organize it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that means I think we have a very diverse team here, both doing businesses and the ones that are studying as well. Noah, do you want to introduce yourself as well to the team since you're here?
Yes, so hello everyone. My name is Noah. I'm from Germany and I'm an apprentice at Böhringer Ingelheim, and I'm currently on Manuela's team on making more health and doing my bachelor's degree in business administration.
All right. Okay. Thank you. All right. So then I think we can proceed with just the training. Please, since I cannot see all of you, if there are any questions, just please feel free to stop me anytime and ask me any questions that you might have. All right? Okay. Okay. So what I covered initially, what I wish to cover today as a part of the agenda is obviously just to understand first what is finance, then give you a little more detailed idea about the key financial concepts. Key financial concepts, as in if you need to do finance, what are the basic terms that you need to know? If you know the terms, then that will help you also come up with, either if you want a budget for your business, if you want to understand, is your business making profits? The key idea is for us to understand what are the basic terms and how it works and how it's going to be an addition to your business. Then, of course, we are going to move on and see how can we make a basic budget for anything that we need to do. It's not just about actually making or doing a business, but it's also maybe budget on a day-to-day basis, as to just to see that you have enough money for yourself. It could be like, okay, if you're working, how do you make sure that you have some money set aside for yourself? Or if you're starting a business, how do you make sure that your cost is not exceeding the income that you're making, and so on? So that's what we will cover in the basic budgeting. And then we will also look into how does profits work, how does losses work, how do we calculate that? And then in between, I'm also trying to see that we can have certain group activities which will help us put these concepts into practice. Okay. Now, what is finance? Before I start, uh, it, do you have any other topics that you would like to cover? You want to say something? Please, again, just I want to like reinforce, please, anyone who has any questions, just please feel free to ask. All right. Okay. What is finance? So it's obviously about just how are we going to manage the money. Like I said earlier, managing money can be if you're doing a business, managing money can be if you're earning money, maybe through work. Managing money can be, I don't know, uh, a loan from your family. If you receive that, how do you pay it back? How do you make sure you have the income? How do you manage your expenses? And all of this, everything related to managing money is what is finance. Why is understanding finance important? Why is it important for whether it's a small business or a big business or an individual to know about finance? Is, of course, it helps decisions. Now, when I say decisions, it means if you're doing a business, it helps you. I think we have. If I spoke to Solasa first, she was speaking about a school. Excuse me, please. Just give me a minute. Okay. So um, if we have a school, if you want to make a decision on how many teachers can we have, what is the salaries that we can provide, how many students can we can we accommodate, etc., what are going to be the utilities, what's if there is rent, what is going to be the rent. If you know all of this information, then you will be able to decide and make decisions on hiring new teachers, taking on new students, expanding the school, and so on. So this is just an example of how finance is going to help us with decision making. The second is, of course, it helps us to be sustainable. Um, what do I mean by sustainability is for us to understand, if we continue the business in a certain way, is this enough for us to allow the business to be running for, let's say, a couple of months, years, and so on. And we can only come to this decision and we can only understand if the business is sustainable if we understand what is finance. And of course, it's interrelated. The last is for us to understand the performance, the business performance. Is our business making profits? Is our business making a loss? How do we come up with all of this? Is, of course, knowing the basics of finance. What is your income? What is your expense? Does is your expenses more than your income? Then you're making a loss. If your income is good, then you're making a profit. But is your income good enough for us to be able to continue for several months or several years? All of this we can only make that decision once we know concepts about finance. So which is why, for any individual, regardless of a business owner, not having a business, understanding finance is very important. Okay. Um, the key financial concepts, I'm sure several of you would be already aware. Now, what do you mean by an income? Okay, so we have, these are only the basic concepts of finance. There are, of course, several more, but I wanted to reinstate the basic ones. So, what is income? So, income is the money that your business earns. So it can be, so if I think Venta said about selling yogurt. So if you sell yogurt, the money that comes in is your income. What are expenses? The cost that will include running your business or running your house. Anything can be an expense. For example, if you have a house, the rent that you pay for your house, if you're renting it, or the electricity that you have to pay for, or the water that you have to pay for, the food that you have to pay for, is all an expense. In terms of business, it's also very similar. If the place is rented, that is your expense. If you have employees that work for you, then that is an expense. If you are, I don't know, if you are producing an item, let's say you're making a cake, the kind of ingredients that you need in order to make it a cake is all your expense. Of course, the main important thing about doing any business is to have profit. So, what is profit? If your income is more than your expense, that's a profit. And what is loss? The loss is if you're not making enough money, but your expenses, that is your fixed cost or your variable cost. Now, when I say about fixed cost will be like rent or the wages that you pay, and the variable cost would be, again, going back to the example of a cake. If you're making a cake, I don't know the amount, sorry, the amount of sugar that you're buying, or the amount of the other ingredients that you would buy, it will depend or will vary depend on how many products you're making. So if that is more than the income that you're making, then you make a loss. Of course, all of this is easy when we say it, but at the same time, why understanding finance is important is because it will help you in order to, actually map out or to track, keep records in order to understand whether you're making this profit or loss. Then, another two important terms of finance is also what is an asset and what is a liability. Asset means it is something that you own or the business owns. So if the business, if you're, I don't know, if you're making a cake, if you have an oven or if you have any setup for that, that is your asset. But what is your liability? The liability is anything that the business has to pay back, or it's not businesses, it is borrowed from someone, it has to be given back, then that is a liability. For example, the loans or any other bills that you have is all a liability of the business. Okay. Is there any question so far? Okay. I just wanted to understand from your side. So now, if you're setting up a business, or if you are just plainly looking at making your finances stable, what do you think is the most important thing? If you want to manage your business or manage your own finances, what, according to you, do you think is most important? Is there anyone who would like to say something? If there is anybody who's already doing any small business, you can maybe tell us, what do you think is most important in managing your business?
For me, I think it's important to manage the expense and the
Hmm. Yeah,
yeah.
that's very good. Of course, managing expense is very, very, very important. Of course, is there anything else anybody else thinks is very important in terms of uh, sorry, I we couldn't hear you.
Uh, as for us, we think that the most important is cash flow.
Agreed. Yes.
Cash flow, ensuring there's enough money to cover expenses and
Right.
business growth.
Right, very well said. That is also very good. Of course, we can make sure. Uh, oh, okay. All right, correct. So, of course, we can make sure. I mean, both the topics are, of course, very important. Yes, we do have to manage our expenses. That's when we have. Sorry, somebody is joining. Okay. Yes, of course, we have to manage our expenses. That's how we make profit. But at the same time, it's also important how you maintain your cash flow. I will obviously cover this later in the training, but it's also, as much as you need to make profits, it's also very important to have cash flow. You need cash, liquid cash that will help you to manage yourself or manage your business. So thank you for that. It's a very well said um, answer. Another thing is understanding what is income and what is expense. Of course, I explained the term what are incomes and what are expense. It's also important now, if you take any types of business, you are able to understand what is the income and what is the expenses. I mean, what kind of expenses can you have? What kind of income can you have? So in the past, two trainings that you had, you learned about what is business, or how do you set up a business. Equally important is, once you have the idea of what a business is, we need to be able to assess what kind of income can we generate. Of course, there will be. So if going back again, if you are if you want to sell yogurt, which someone said, that's the product you're selling. of course. So then that is going to be your income. Is there any kind of other external incomes that you can get from the same business? I don't know if you're turning the yogurt into a different food item, then maybe that's an additional income that you will have. But at the same time, you need to also understand what are the different kinds of expenses that can come in. The expenses would be, of course, getting the item, the time that is spent in selling it. If you're putting a stall, then the cost for the stall. If there is electricity, then the cost of electricity. If there is other water or other ingredients, etc., that we are using, these all would be expenses. Which is why the basic understanding of what an income and expense is as important uh, for having just having a business idea. Having a business idea or wanting to sustain yourself, it is both important to equally understand what is going to be the income and what is going to be the expense out of the idea that you have. um, is there anyone who can it would be good if somebody I cannot see, sorry, just one second. Yeah, is there anyone who would like to give an example of what any business idea, and then what might be the type of income or expense that is arising from that? I think um, let's take an example of I don't know, does anybody do like a tailoring shop, or let's say something more easier, having tuitions, taking tuitions for other students? Do you know what can be the type of expenses or income from this type of business? It's very similar to school, so I think it will be a good example. If you're taking tuitions for students, what is the income and what is the expense that goes out of this? Anybody wants to try answering?
Okay. Thank you. The expense, I think, can be maybe renting a place whereby you will be conducting that tuition, and the
Correct.
income will be when the parents of maybe those students
Pay you
whom
fees.
you are having will
Yeah,
be some token.
correct. Yes. So understanding this is very important. Now, why is this important? Let's say you're renting the place for like 1,000 dirhams or in $1,000 or whatever the currency may be. But if your income from all your students together is only like 500 dirhams, then of course you're not making any profit. So it is very important to see, okay, if my expense is this, I need to be able to teach at least these many students so that I will be able to cover the cost. Then you need to assess how many more students do you have to teach in order to be able to make the additional profit. Okay? Now, understanding what is a simple budget. Now, what is budget? Just as I said, understanding income and expense, a plan, an idea that you put together to understand how you're going to manage your income and expense is what is called budget in very simple terms. So, if, like I said, if you're starting a tuition center, what is your budget? Your budget would be understanding all the cost, then estimating all the incomes that you have. This put into a table is what is called as the budget. Now, it's not a budget just for businesses. You can also put a budget for yourself. So let's say you are somebody who earns by doing some work. What is your budget? Your budget would be understanding what is your income from your wage or from your salary, and how much are you spending for, let's say, food, for utilities, for rent. Estimating all of this together is what is called a budget. Now, why do you need budget? Like I said, you need budget in order to be able to track your money, to avoid overspending and to understand if you're able to grow from this. So if going back to the example of a tuition, if I know that my rent is 1,000 dirhams, my income from students is 1,000 dirhams, then I'm neither making a profit, neither making a loss. But if I increase that students from 10 to 11, then if I am making, let's say, 1,100, then I know I'm making that 100 dirhams in profit. So this is why budgeting is important. Let's say you know for sure that you will only have 5 students. Okay, so the 5 students and income from each student is like 100 dirhams. If you rent a place which is higher, then you're never going to be able to cost, which is why it is important that we are able to come up with a budget, come up with a whole plan of what is going to be your income and then what is going to be your expense. So, moving forward, I think in the last two trainings, you've already calculated how to make profit. So, what is the basic formula of profit? Is simple: how much you're getting minus how much you're paying. That is income minus your expense is profit. Now, if your income minus your expense is a negative amount, then that means it's a loss, right? So here's an example. Okay, there is income of $700. Then the expense is you have rent that you're paying, which is $200. You have materials that you pay for, another $150, and you're paying wages $100. Do you think they are making profit? If yes, how much do you think is the profit? Or if no, then how much do you think is the loss? Uh, do you have maybe a paper or a calculator that you'll be able to calculate with?
Yeah,
So,
if I did understand you correctly, I think you said the income is $700
correct.
and the expenses amount up to 250 plus 100. I think the profit here is $250.
Okay. So,
If
sorry, I cannot hear you. Sorry. Can you please repeat? I don't know if anybody else was able to hear.
can you get me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes. Please go
Okay.
ahead. Yeah.
If we subtract the total income, which is $700 from the total expenses, we get the profit to be a margin of $250.
Okay, correct. Yes. So it's uh, yeah. So just profit, like he said, is just income minus expense. Your income here is the $700 that you make from sales. So this applies for any business. For any business you do, of course, the major source of your income is the sales of the product or the service that you do. So if you're making a product, then the finished good is your sale, and when you sell it, the money that you make is your profit. If you're taking a tuition, for example, or it's basically the service that you're providing, it's your knowledge that you're sharing. In that case, that the income that you get from sharing that knowledge or from teaching will be your income. So here, the income is your sales. Unfortunately, everything else is the expense: rent, material, and the wages that you pay are all expenses. So that's 200 plus 150 plus 100. So all of this together is your is your expense, which is $450. So you are done with just 250 uh, dollars as your profit. So this is just a refresher because I think this is already covered in the last two training sessions that you had. But I just wanted to reinstate how an profit is calculated. Now, going back again, how do you identify the income, identify the expense? I'm stressing on this again is because later you would be seeing how to understand cash flow, how to understand a profit and loss statement. For all of this, it's very, very important that we are able to identify what is our income and what is our expense accurately. Okay, so Uh, sorry. Okay. There are several questions that you can ask yourself in order to identify the income and the expense. First, what way will the business make money? Okay. So that's the first thing to understand how you're going to make an income. What will you sell? Are you going to sell a product? Are you going to be providing service? Okay. Will you be receiving payments in cash? Are they going to pay you then and there? Will there be customers who will come back again? So, all of these questions are what you can ask in order. So, if you're coming up, so first we studied about what is a business, then we studied about what is a business model, then are these questions that are necessary for you to be able to come up with your finances. So ask yourself, what product or what service are you going to be selling? And if you do, how much of it will you be receiving in cash? How many customers are going to be paying you in cash? How many of those customers are going to come back to you on a repeated basis? So if you go back to the tuition service that we were saying, are the students, the 10 students that you had in 1 month, are they going to be your repeated students for the rest of the year? Are you going to be adding on more students? Are they all going to be paying you cash on time? All of this is important for us to understand what is our business going to make. Okay. Second is understanding how much are you going to earn from this product or service. So if, for example, if you're providing tuitions, okay, you're providing service, how do you come up with what is the cost? What is the uh, uh, cost of your service? Of course, it's basically, so if I am providing tuitions to you or to other students, is basically time and knowledge. So how will you come up with the price for this? The price for the price that you will charge to a tuition, of course, it will come first understanding what are all the other kinds of expenses that you have, first understanding how many students will come in. All of this is going to be helping you determine what and how much money will you make from this business. Then the third is also understanding what is the timing of this income. Are you going to be receiving money on a daily basis? Are they going to be paying you weekly? Are you going to be paying you monthly? Now, again, going back to what one of the team members said, why is the timing important? Timing is important because we need to know that we have enough cash flow. So I will cover this later, but just to give you an example, let's say you are selling a product, and for the products, okay, the money is coming in as in when you sell, you're getting the money at the same time, which is fine. Then in that case, you have money coming in all the time. But let's say if you have to pay wages or you have to pay rent, and if the wages or the rent is being taken from you, let's say weekly or on a daily basis, do you have enough income in order to be able to pay those expenses? So the timing of the money, the timing when which you will receive the money is also very important. And then the last thing is are there going to be any other sources of income? So, what does other sources of income mean? So maybe, let's say you want to, you want to sell a coffee. Okay, that is your main product. Your main product is selling coffee or tea. That is your one source of income. But from the same stall or some from the same shop, will there be any other services or any other that products that are being sold which will help you in increasing your sales? Like maybe a small piece of a cake or a cup or something that you're providing along with the coffee. Is that going to give you money? Is all important in identifying what your income is. Okay. Next would be, once now we've figured out, okay, all our income is, what is the, what are we going to sell, how much are we going to make from these products, when will we be getting paid for all these product or services that you're doing? Are there any additional services that you will do in order to earn more sales? Then we need to identify what is called as expense. Expense, like I said, like we already discussed, is identifying the basic cost. So, basic cost means the basic cost of running a business, rent, utilities, if you're making a product, all the items that is needed in order to make the product, everything is your basic cost. Now, uh, uh, sorry, so the basic cost is basically the setup of the cost. Then we have also the cost that is needed in order to have the finished product or the finished service. So like I said, what is the cost of a finished product is all the cost that will go in order to make that product. Okay. Then, excuse me, please, just a minute. Sorry. Then if are you taking a loan or a credit? If you are starting a business by your own money, then that is your capital. Okay. But if you are taking a loan from somebody, a family is giving it to you, or you're taking a loan from the bank, then that is also that we need to consider as our expense and have them. Then any unexpected cost that will come in, if there is going to be any repairs or any emergency, we are selling a product, let's say, for whatever reason the product gets damaged, then what you thought would be an income from that product is not coming to you, right? So let's say we made a cake, but because of uh, any reasons that the cake got spoiled and the customer returns to you, that is a is an unexpected cost that will come to you. You are expecting to sell two cakes, but you could only sell one because the other cake got spoiled. So all the money that you put into making the spoiled cake is also a cost that you have to incur. So these are the emergencies or the unexpected costs that we need to consider while making a budget. Okay. So just for an activity before we go in, if you can just discuss in teams, let's say, of 10 minutes, choose any small businesses that you have, or just take anything from the example scenarios that I have given. Uh, what I wish for you to do is to actually come up with what are the kinds of incomes these businesses will have, what kind of expenses will this business have, put in any example scenarios, put in any numbers that you would like, but I don't want you to want to understand what is going to be the incomes of these business, what is going to be the expenses of these business, what will be the different kind of emergencies that will be in this business, what is the additional income maybe you can make from this business, and then let's try to see if this business can be something profitable, if this business is valid. Okay, so if you can just divide yourselves. I think we have different rooms. So maybe from each room, you can discuss for like 10 minutes and then one of you can share your information. Okay? Is the question clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, na nilikuwa nimemute. Sasa unajua yeye anaongea sana.
Amesema we discuss yote, alafu sisi wote, alafu sasa watu wawili wanaweza present yenye. Hajasema tuchague yani group. Anasema in group. Kwa hivyo tutazifanya zote, na alafu wawili wana 10 minutes hizi tushiriki.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, yes, Sam. Are you asking anything?
We ask you to mute.
Sorry?
We can ask you if Solasa can mute.
Okay.
I muted them. Sina all.
Thank you.
So whoever wants to talk has to unmute then.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do you are you guys ready, or do you guys need more time?
Solasa, we are ready.
Sorry, I could not hear that. So is there, are you guys ready, or do you guys need more time? I'm sorry if you said it already, but I couldn't hear.
Okay. We're ready.
Okay, then,
Thank you.
uh,
We are ready.
okay, please go ahead. Then you can tell us what kind of business have you chosen, and then the different incomes and the different expenses that you have identified for those businesses.
Okay, we are Tendo Group. For us,
Okay.
we've chosen the grocery business.
Sorry, which one?
We've chosen the grocery business.
Okay,
Grocery shop.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. All
So
right.
under the expenses, first of all, we need to cater for the rent.
Yes,
We also need to cater for the license. Uh, the cost of goods is also
correct.
essential. The
Yes,
transport cost, we need some transportation fee to enable our goods to come to our shop.
yeah,
And if it is a startup business, we need to incur for the capital expenses, such
yes,
as buying the furnitures, blender, something of that sort, because we
yes.
also have something in mind concerning the blender part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we need also to incur for the utilities such as electricity, water, communication cost. In addition to that, we need to cater for the wages. And
Yes,
an additional of the expenses cost of maybe the damaged goods, maybe during transportation, some of the goods were damaged. We need to cater for that one as an expense. And
correct.
also, if the product that we were having, maybe they can go bad at some point, we need also
Mm-hmm.
to add that one as an expense. So coming to the income part of it,
Mm-hmm.
we can have, and under sales, we've differentiated it. We have sales on credit and sales on cash. For example, sales on credit, grocery business can be located close to a certain school whereby they take some of our goods on credit, and on some day they pay us
Mm-hmm.
on the sales
Okay,
on credit. And an
okay.
additional income that we have to this business is fruit fresh juice sales,
Oh, that's
whereby
amazing. Great idea. Yes.
yeah, we
Okay.
did purchase a blender, and now we're making juices from some of our fruit that we do have. So that one will be supplying an additional income apart
Income
from the
for.
gross price that we'll be incurring. In addition to that, we have some donations. Sometimes we can be donating to some kids in the school. Maybe you can't be able to purchase some of our products like fruits. So at some point in time, we can be having some offers, maybe to look at the needy kids and maybe give them something that they can maybe take. And in
That's,
addition to that, we can
yeah.
also look for some donors because we do donate. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
some donors be also donating to us to support us in maybe the operational cost, buying the cost of buying the goods and such. I think
That
that's
is
what we're having.
That's already a very brilliant plan. That's amazing. So you have absolutely nailed identifying all the kinds of expenses and all the incomes as well, and very good ideas regarding how to earn extra income. Now, identifying this, do you think that this is going to give you a good idea on how to budget for a grocery store if that's needed? Do you think this exercise is helping you with that?
It is helping you to be able to prepare a budget.
Yeah, actually, it is helping us to prepare a budget because
Mm-hmm.
under the budget, you did say that we need to understand, first of all, the expenses and also the income that is coming in place. And
Yes,
if we know our budget, we'll be able to calculate the profit margins that we'll be getting from our business and such. So I think it is necessary to help us to know our budget.
agreed. Then the other thing is you said you have sales both in credit and cash. Now, so the other thing,
Yes.
like I said, what we also need to identify is when will you be needing to spend these expenses? Because will you have enough cash in order to be able to pay these expenses, which is why the exercise that you did is wonderful, because you're understanding, okay, you will have cash sales and credit sales. You identified all your expenses as well. Of course, a simple income minus expense is your profit, but at the same time, if if your rent has to be paid weekly, you need to be sure you have enough cash sales in order to be able to pay that, or you have enough money in order to be able to pay that. So we need to be able to time our income as well as time all these expenses that you mentioned. Right? Okay. Is there? Thank you. Is this Samuel who is speaking? Thank you so much for this input. It was really well thought out. Anybody? Any other team that would like to go next?
Actually, it wasn't Samuel, it was a member of our team called.
Okay, I'm called Benjamin.
All right.
Uh,
Thank you, Benjamin. This was really nice. Very well thought out. Thanks a lot. Okay. Maybe one of the teams from Solasa.
Yes. Yes, for us, we looked about on small bakery, and the
Okay.
income from the small bakery, we saw that there is sales from cookies, mandazi, bread, and some cakes. And then
Mm-hmm.
also we saw there will be a delivery fee, which is the money that we will be getting from special orders that
Mm-hmm.
requires delivery. And
That's
then on
good.
expenses, we saw there is a cost of raw materials, utility like electricity, water, and fuel. And then
Okay.
also there is rent, labor, which is salaries for workers, and also
Mm,
the packaging expenses and license and permits.
correct. Okay. All right. So the additional uh, income that you're trying to make out of this business is to have deliveries, correct?
Yes,
Okay. And have you thought
yes,
about what?
delivery.
Mhm. Go ahead, please. Okay. So have you thought about how this business would be in terms of timing of money? Like what time you would be able to pay the expenses and what time the cash would come in as well? Because, like I said, Benjamin, earlier, that's also very important, regardless of whatever the kinds of businesses that you're doing. When will be your license fee due? When would your rent be due? When will you have to make the purchase of the raw material? How long is it going to stay? How many orders are going to come in? How frequently are the orders going to come in, that you'll be able to time these expenses as well, which is very important for us to have cash flow, because we might make profits a year down. But if we are not able to sustain with enough cash, in being liquid enough, that is enough liquidity in the business, then also we are going to possess issues, which is why we're doing this exercise of identifying your income, your expenses, and then timing. Okay. Then the next team, I think Solasa 2.
And the thing of we buy material at 1500.
Sorry, I cannot hear you. Can you speak a little louder, please?
The total cost of doing our dresses charge here from 500. That we assume that error will be make a profit of 1,000.
Okay, I really couldn't hear. I'm really sorry about that. I just couldn't understand because the sound was very low. Uh, do you want to go again or? Okay. Anybody else who wants to, who has an idea on the business or what kinds of income and expense?
Hello everyone again.
Hello, hi.
I'm Venta and I'll be taking you through the yogurt business, which we have discussed. And the aim of making the yogurt is to, first of all, which we know is to make profit, and then engage, sell it to the community.
Yes.
Yeah. So from the income we have, what we can have as the expense is the milk. We have the sugar. We have the sugar, the cups, the containers, which roughly has a budget of 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Do you think if you wanted to make any extra services out of this business, there would be anything that you can do? Maybe like the bakeries just said, maybe delivering this yogurt as per, the orders that you get could be an additional income for the service that you're providing as well, correct? So just an idea. Okay. Do you have any other ideas that you think could maybe help you with some extra income, or you?
apart from the delivery, we have a team of young mothers who are willing to do the service.
Okay.
And apart from that, there is no other additional income.
Okay, that is amazing. All right. Okay. Thank you, Oventa. Anybody else? Okay. So I think now with all the examples that everyone heard, with everything that was shared by the team already, everyone should now have a good idea of what is all the incomes and all the expense that needs to be identified while starting a business, and while checking. Initially I told you, why is finance important, or why is budgeting important? Of course, it helps you with decision making. Secondly, it helps you assess if your business is sustainable. So just by identifying, what is your income and what is your expense, tracking that down, writing that down, and calculating the profits, or calculating the timing of the money coming in, you're able to decide on whether the business will be sustainable, whether you're making profit, whether you can make decisions like whether you have to expand the business. Should you sell more yogurt? Should you be selling more cakes? Should you expand your grocery store? All of these decisions are being made with just identifying all your income and expense, and having it noted down, or by tracking them down. Okay. Now, moving on, understanding profit and loss. Now, if you've through this trainings that you can see everything, the budget, understanding whether your business makes profit, making a budget, profit and loss, it's in a way all interrelated. All what we are trying to see is, how is our income, how is our expense, do we have profit and loss? Again, if while doing a profit and loss, it's the same formula that you studied or that you learned even in the other trainings with that was conducted earlier. Profit is just income minus expense. If you're creating a profit and loss statement for your business, again, all you're doing is trying to understand how much was your income, how much was your loss over a period of time. Okay. So, like I said, what is a profit and loss statement? The summary. So that means all the incomes that you just figured out, and all the expenses you figured out, track them down in a format, is what is called as a profit and loss statement. The formula is still the same. Profit equals income minus expense. Now I will show you an example of how a profit and loss statement will look like. So as you can see, what have they done here? How much is your sales? What do you have to pay as services? What is your interest? This is the profit that you're making. Then what all expenses do you have? You subtract all the expenses, you know how much is your total expense. What is your profit? It's just literally the income minus the expense is what is going to give you your profit and loss. So it's very, very simple like that. In order to make it more complicated, what a profit and loss statement does is exactly what we discussed in the several slides earlier. It's understanding all your incomes is, put it together, which will give you the income. Write down all sorts of expenses that your business has, that will give you your expense. Your profit and loss for a period of time is so much. Okay. A minute again, please. Again, in this profit and loss statement, you can see what are your sales. So the money that you get out of the business is your sale. Services, the service that you provide, for example, the delivery or the donation, etc., or the extra services that you would be providing, is your income again. The third income over here is very interesting, bank interest. So let's say your business did very well. You have put some money into the bank. If you're earning interest out of that, that is also an additional income. That gives you how much income you're making. Then you take off all the expenses, wages, payroll expenses. If somebody is supposed to give you a money, but they have not given you money, then that is bad debt. Then the suppliers that you have to pay. So if you're doing a grocery store, if you got the goods, you have to pay somebody that you've bought the goods from. Those are your suppliers. The maintenance of the shop is an expense. If you are, let's say, putting out flyers, doing some advertisement, that is your expense. So these are several expenses. So this is how you come up with a profit and loss. But what is profit and loss? It's something that you do for a specific period of time. It can be if you want to do it monthly, it can be when you want to do it, let's say you want to compare how you did last year versus how you did this year. So you're comparing basically two periods. Okay. Then this is what we started with. I think somebody already mentioned. It's of course, we need to understand how to make profits in the business, but at the same time, we also have to manage the cash flow. What is cash flow? Cash flow is simple. How much money is coming in and money is going out. When I say this, I don't mean income and expense. I'm not just meaning income and expense. You must have sold a good, but let's say you are giving them credit and they tell you they will pay you 30 days later. Okay, you provided a service or you're giving a tuition was for 1 month, and they are saying, okay, I will pay you this money next month, right? So although you have actually given the service or you've given the product, the money has not come in. So there is income, but there is no cash incoming. Right? So cash flow or managing cash flow means managing the money, the actual money, whether it's a bank transfer or a cash that actually comes in, and the money that goes out, that you pay a vendor, you pay a supplier, the cash or the money in your bank that you pay out is basically what is managing a cash flow. Like I mentioned earlier, managing cash flow is very important. Firstly, it will help you to make sure that the business is profitable. Secondly, if your business is not able to have enough money in order to pay the things that you have to pay, then it puts the business at risk. Right? We will always think, oh, let's pay tomorrow. Let's pay when that invoice gets paid. Let's pay when somebody else pay. When this happens, you're not managing your cash flow, which is why you have to know, if you've sold these many products, if you've provided these services, your money will come in this week. If you have an expense, let's say at the end of the month, then it's okay. But if it's in between the week, do you have enough money to pay those people or pay the vendor, pay the bill? This is where managing of cash flow is important. Simple, again, managing cash flow is important because it helps you track money, actually track money. Maybe in your mind, or when we make a normal profit and loss statement, we'll be like income minus expenses profit. But if the cash has not come in, then there's really no money in the business, right? Which is why managing the cash flow becomes very important. Secondly, let's say in the first January and February, you sold really well, but in March, you're not able to. But your expenses like rent or a person or your license fee or your utility fees are not going to go down heavily. But your sale or your product for that particular month reduced. If this reduced, we should have enough cash in the business in order to be able to pay those months where your business is doing slightly lower, because any business that you take would have months that does very well, the months that might be low. So in order to be able to sustain the months where you're not doing heavily or really well, is why we need to manage a cash flow. Okay. And then what does it do? It also gives you an insight in order to be able to reduce the expenses when it is not necessary. If we keep thinking we are profitable, we will continue to have expenses. But if we know our cash flow is lower, then it will help us also reduce our expenses. Right? So altogether, we need to be able to manage our cash flow. Example scenario here. Okay. a business earns $1,000 in a week, okay? But it has to pay 700 in expense by the end of the week. Does it have enough money to pay the bills? What do you think? So it's saying that a business is earning 1,000 in a week, but it has 700 to pay in expenses by the end of the week. Does it have enough money to pay the bills?
Yes, I think it has enough money to pay the bills, and
Mm-hmm.
we have a profit margin of surplus. We have a surplus of $300.
Correct. Okay. All right. But what happens if the next week also they are not making $100,000, but your expenses remain 700 itself? It is eating out of your profit. So then you will have shortage of cash flow, which is why it is important to see that several weeks you're able to cover certain amount of your cost. Okay. Now, Now, this is an example of how to create a cash flow. Okay, now this is a good activity. Now, you saw how a cash flow is created. I showed you earlier. I showed you what a profit and loss statement is. What I would like you to do, please divide yourself into teams. And here it's an example. You run a fruit and vegetable store. This month, you're tracking the cash that comes in, that is the income, and what goes out to see if you made a profit or have cash shortage. Okay. These are the items that they have given you. There is sales of fruits and vegetable. We have 10,000. We have taken a loan from a family. We have 5,000. We have purchasing fruits and vegetables, 12,000. We have rent, 3,000, salaries, 4,000, and other expenses like transport, water, utilities, 1,000. Can you please be in groups and try to work out if they have enough cash and if they have made profit? Please take like 15 minutes in order to calculate how much, if they have cash or if they have a cash shortage. Hello.
Solasa,
Uh-huh.
we can see we have a loss of 15,000 because the income was 10,000, then the expenses is 25,000.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, okay. So now when we are, okay, good question, a good answer when you are actually calculating just profit, but profit wise, it's correct. Now, can you calculate the cash flow if there is actually cash and not profit? Profit is different. Profit is income minus expense. You're absolutely right. You calculated how much is your profit. What we also need to calculate is actually how much is your cash. How much cash do you have? So there's two things you need to calculate. First is the profit, and the second is mainly to understand if there is going to be cash or cash shortage. You can take your time, just take like 10 minutes more, and then we can discuss. Okay. And then I will try to explain to you again what is the difference between actually profits and then cash flow. Okay. I hope you all had enough time to do it. Can we then proceed to see the answers? Anybody needs a little more time? Okay. So, uh,
For us, we are ready.
okay. Perfect. All right. Okay. So, just to repeat the question again. Uh, okay. You are running a fruit and vegetable stall. This month, you're tracking the cash that comes in and goes out, and you need to actually assess if you've made a profit. Also, we are trying to figure out if there is a cash shortage. Okay.
Yep.
So, the sale of fruit and vegetables, of course, it is an income. So, there is cash coming in. The tricky part here, I know it is a very simple question. Income minus expenses, profit, easy. What did I mention about the cash flow? You need to see all the cash that is coming in and the cash that is going out. That is what is the cash flow. Loan from family, is that a cash coming in or cash going out? Yes, it is something that we owe, we have to give back. But in terms of a cash flow statement, when you're looking at it, it is a cash that is coming in. Okay. Purchasing fruits and vegetables, that is the cost of goods, right? So that is, of course, the cash that is going out. Rent, it's basically the cash going out. Salaries, again, cash that is going out. Any other expense that you have, of course, it's an expense and it is the money going out. Anybody wants to actually say now what might be the cash flow? Anybody who's already done it?
So for us,
Mm-hmm,
we've separated it into three sections whereby we have the cash inflow.
mm-hmm,
We've summed it up whereby we have the sales and the loan
mm-hmm.
from the family amounting to
Correct.
15,000. And we have the cash outflow, which is
Yeah.
the expenses part of it, which is amounting to 20,000. And now
Okay.
the total cash available is a cash shortage in some term, whereby
Mm-hmm,
we have it as a negative, which is
mm-hmm.
5,000 shillings.
Correct. Correct. Yes. Okay. Uh, so going back again. Sorry. So, like he said, if we were calculating cash flow, that is to understand the cash that is coming in and the cash that is going out, sale of fruits, cash coming in, loan from your family, cash coming in. Together, we have 15,000. Cash outflow, purchase of fruit and vegetable is the cash outflow, rent is the cash outflow, salary is the cash outflow, all the miscellaneous expense is also the cash outflow, which is 20,000. So your cash flow or your cash outflow is basically you need 5,000 more shilling to be able to survive in that particular period, right? But if I was asking you just in general, what is the profit? What do you think the profit would be? Not the cash flow, but what is the profit of this business right now if you simply look at it? So let's say, okay, to just maybe clarify further, we are looking at the profit in January. Okay, so this is your sales in January. Loan for the person, you have to pay it back, let's say, the end of the year. So in that particular month, what is your profit?
Okay, according to me, the
Mhm.
profit is rather a loss, which is 10,000.
Profit is
negative
Right.
10,000.
Profit is negative 10,000. Okay, how did you calculate that?
So we have the sales, which is amounting to 10,000, and we need to subtract the sales from the sales from the expense, or rather, we subtract the expenses from the sales. And the
Correct, right?
expenses are amounting to 20,000 and the sales at 10,000.
Right. Understood. So now you understand what is the difference between the cash flow and what is the difference between profit and loss, right? So, like you rightly said, yes, the cash inflow, it is a positive for us when it's the loan. But when we are calculating the profit, it's not, you cannot include that in your profit because you have to pay it back, right? So then that becomes your expense. So in that case, like he said, your profit will reduce, your cash flow is also negative. Okay. Now, anybody has any questions? Sorry about that. Any questions?
None from us.
No. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Then let's move on. So now once we have identified our income, our expense, we know how to calculate what is our profit, what is our cash flow. In order to facilitate all of this, what is really, really important is record keeping. Record keeping meaning we have to either note down, actually write down, or track it in the softwares or the systems that you use. What is your income? What is your expense? What time are you going to pay? Who all are your debtors? Do you have any debts? Do you owe people money? Are there people is there any creditors who needs to pay you some money? What are all the items that you have? So let's say if it is a grocery, in order to have a good financial stability, we identified all the incomes and expenses initially. One job done. Second job would be to identify how we are going to be selling everything, what is going to be our profits, and so on. Third is we are going to check what is the timing of our cash flow, etc. At the same time, you also have to record what is your inventories, like how many fruits or how many vegetables or the other items that you have is there in stock. Because why is this important? If it is a grocery, you have to see that let's say this things get spoiled in some time. So do you have enough, do you know how much inventory that you have, so you can make sure the goods are moving, in case there is that there is damage of goods, how are you going to cover the cost? All of this can be actually maintained if there is record keeping. So record keeping, literally in very literal sense, it would mean to keep record of income, expense, profit, loss, the cash inflows, the cash outflows, what are your inventories, when do you have to make the payments, when do you have to collect cash. Having all of this detailed in some form of records, either in books of accounts or either in the accounting softwares, or either in even a normal Excel, is called record keeping. Record keeping can be done for businesses. Record keeping can be done again for personal expenses as well, right? Now, again, before we move on to it, record keeping, I would like to also maybe just um, you know give you an idea on, if you're selling a yogurt Or if you're selling, let's say, groceries. Groceries, we are buying something and we are selling, right? Or if it's tuitions that you're providing, like I said, tuition is a service. How do you come up with the price of all of these, right? Here, again, we are going to do a small group activity again. Here, I would like for you to come up with what is going to be the cost of the product that you're selling. Okay, it's just an example. Here, you're running a cake shop and you need to calculate the selling of a price of a cake. Okay, let's say the cost breakdown is as follows. Ingredient is $10. Labor, as in wages or salaries, is $5 per cake. There is packaging material that you would spend at $2. There is overhead at $3. You are starting a business and you want the profit to be at least 20%. Okay. So if your profit is 20%, you need a profit of 20%. At what price will you sell this cake? Okay. Since I did not give the formula earlier, I'm just going to give you a hint on what the profit is. So I've just mentioned it here. Profit would be how much ever your total cost is. So there are two ways of calculating profit. One way of calculating is identifying these are all your expenses. This will all be all my income. That is the profit. The other way of calculating the profit is understand all your cost. Okay, all the costs and all the expenses of the business. Then let's say you want to make 10% profit, 20% profit. Then how will you come up with the price of this cake? So in this cake, all the ingredients cost, all the packaging, all the other overheads like utilities, etc. We've come to realize how much we're going to spend on one cake. But now we need to know at what price will you give it? At what price will you sell it? So here I've given the formula. It's just total cost is total cost into profit margin. Can you try calculating at what price we need to sell this particular cake? Okay, again, I will give you another 10 minutes. Please let me know what would be the price that you would be selling this cake at. Okay. Is the question clear to everyone, or do you have any question?
It's clear to us.
Okay, perfect. The rest of the team, Solasa?
It's clear to us.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, hi, I'm Beatrice from Solasa.
Hello,
According to
hi.
us, we have,
Sorry,
according to us, we have calculated.
calculated how much? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
According to us, we have calculated the profit by calculating the total cost times the profit margin from 100, in which we've got the profit is $4. Then the selling price is equal to buying price plus profit, in which it comes to $24.
Okay, correct. Okay, so you said 24, right? Okay, that's correct. Absolutely right. So, um, like she said, the total cost would be the cost of all the things that we mentioned above. So 10 plus 5 plus 2 plus 3, which is $20. You said we agreed that we want to have a profit of 20%, which means on each cake, at least we need to make a $4 profit. If we need to make a profit of $4, we need to sell the product at the price of $24 in order to be able to make that profit. So then we saw these two ways of identifying what is going to be the price of your product. Now, let's say I already mentioned this earlier, but if it was a service, how do you think you would come up with the price of the cost? Sorry, how would you come up with the price of the service? Anybody wants to try? So if it is a service, of course, we don't know how, like if we are taking, going back to tuitions again, if you're taking tuitions, how would you come up with the price of that service in order to be able to be profitable? Okay. So if it is a service, like I said, obviously we still need to identify the cost, like how I mentioned earlier, what is going to be your fixed cost, variable cost of providing that service. So identifying, let's say if you have only 5 students and your cost of rent, your time, etc., is calculated, you need to then be able to divide by the number of students in order to know how much you make from one student. Okay, so that's how you will come up with the cost, which is why in a service is very important to know all your incomes and all your expense in order to be, I mean, all your expenses ideally, in order to be able to come up with the price of that particular service. If it is a product, it is much more clearer like this because you know how much ingredient, you know what is going to be the packaging material, you know what is going to be if it's the utility, you're going to create, you will be baking 10 cakes in a week, then you need to know how much of utility bill comes in a week, how much can you divide that if you make just only 10 cakes a week, then how much should you divide, how much profit you should make, and how much should be the selling price. So in this training, what I was ideally trying to do was to give you this basic knowledge of what is finance, understand the key basic concepts, ideally identify the profits, and come up with a budget, come up with a cash flow statement, and come up with profit and loss statement. Now, I just wanted to ask from you, is the topics clear? Are there any other topics that is not clear to you that we need to go through? Then, and I can go through it again. Or do you have any questions that you were not able to ask during the training? Please go ahead and ask me. Is there any questions that anybody have? Okay, so are there no questions? Then I can then go proceed with the closing of this training. So are there no more questions or any questions that any topics that's not clear? Then I can just give you a refresher of what we did in the training.
Sorry, what was your question?
No, I was asking you if you had any questions from this training, any topics that's not clear that I need to go through again, or any topics that was not covered that you probably have questions to.
We think it was well covered. We are quite clear. Internally, we're going to just have some discussion after this and to clarify if there's anything more that needs to be clarified that we can answer.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay. All right. Okay. So the key takeaways that from this training is finance is actually about understanding how money works. How does the money come in? How does the money go out? How do you manage it? This is basically what finance is. For any business, tracking what is your income and expense and identifying the profits are also essential. Like I said, this is not just for any businesses, even for an individual person, trying to identify how much income comes in, how much expense goes out, allows you to be more sustainable in taking on your life or carrying on your life or carrying on your profit. A good budget and a cash flow management are keys to success. Just as we covered an example much earlier, cash flow and profit, although go hand in hand, we still need to figure out how much cash flows are there, because sometimes you can be profitable but not necessarily having the cash. So all of this, maintaining both, that is maintaining the profit and maintaining the cash flow, is very important and ideal for any business. And simple record keeping is what is important in order to be able to sustain and in order to be able to track all your expenses and income. Simple Excel, simple writing down in books of account, simply using accounting softwares is going to give you a good track of all the incomes and all the expenses. Of course, there is certain expenses and costs that we can obviously keep it in mind, but when we are running a business, that will not be possible. Of course, we need to know what is happening in the long run. We need to be able to compare how we did in previous quarters or previous months. For all of this, record keeping is essential. So I hope during this training that I've tried to cover, the basics, the terms of finance that you should all be aware about, the cash flow statement and how it works, calculating profits, and also how to set up normal or a very basic record keeping. I hope this session was really useful to you. If there is any other topics that you would like to be covered, if there are any other topics that you think can be covered better, please do give your feedback. I would be honored to take that on and to hopefully do this training later as well. So really, thanks a lot for attending. Thank you for finding the time, and wish you all very good luck. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful rest
you.
of the